Hi guys, Mr. Jaeger here, and welcome back. My character always wants to do that whenever I hit the animation thing. But yes, welcome to Star Citizen for day 4, or at least group 4 of the Invictus week. And we've already had a pretty damn good week so far. We've had the Origin Jump Works, and oh my god, what was the first bloody company that came along? It was our Origin Jump Works, and my mind's gone blank. What the fuck came in first? Oh, what was it? I can't remember. It's literally that long ago. It's been so long. But no, we had Anvil then. We had Aegis Dynamics. We still got Drake Interplanetary to go. So what are the groups for today? Well, we've got a bit of a big one for you. Because, of course, with all things in regards to army, as much as it's fun fighting, shooting, killing, and battling your way to glory, you also will need to be able to have food, resources, and the means to transport them. And what better way to segue this than to showcase the transport and logistical side? That's right. Obviously not all the vessels here are just for logistics, there are a few military variants, but today is going to be more about the logistical side of things. In fact, the elevator said logistical sides of stuff. So we have also the largest grouping of people in the Invictus event. We've got not 1, not 2, but 4. That's right, 4 different companies have come to vie for our attention and glory. The first 2 at the front being the Consolidated Outland with their very famous and predictable Mustang. And the little tiny crafts in front of us, which doesn't really do the company justice, are of course Argo Industries. So for today we're going to be looking at all of the other things, but in the sides of course we have the Crusaders, which will be the thing we'll be looking at after the Outland and the Argo. And finally, to wrap things off, we will be looking at the mother of all ships, at least for the time being, the Misc, or the name that I'm not going to pronounce because I can't pronounce it. So without further ado, let's get started. And let's start by looking at Consolidated Outland. So Consolidated Outland is quite I would say if you haven't played Star Citizen, you're probably kind of familiar with this particular company because the Mustang is their bread and butter. And also the milk, the cereal, the sausages with the beans, the everything, pretty much the house brick and mortar, because this is the only vessel that's currently really in development for Consolidated Outland. And if you want to have a Mustang Delta, then that's pretty good. It comes out as the starting price. I think it's like one of the cheapest aircrafts you can get in the verse. Apparently there's going to be a thing in the future where you can have a little cargo bay to store up your stuff, but at the moment it doesn't have it. Yeah, so this particular vessel is paired up with the Aurora, and I would fear that the Aurora is given a bit of a bad rep because the Mustang is all flash but no substance, in my opinion. I'm not a huge fan of the Mustang for a couple of reasons. The first of all being, it's not a very practical aircraft. I mean, if you look at it in terms of like what a new player wants to start with, yes, it's got the combat shit laid down. You've got a gimbaled set of... you've got 2 size gimbaled... 2 size 2 gimbaled... That's a mouthful. And you've got a size 2 fixed laser repeaters on both wings, and also on each wing is dumbfire rocket pods, which, if you're a new player to Star Citizen, you may not be able to go... You may end up pissing through that ammunition before you even achieve your first kill. So, while, yes, the combat side of this ship is powerful, she is maneuverable, and as a sort of fighter aircraft, it's not a bad starter, I would say it's not the most practicable for a new player. Though that said, if you watch my previous video, you'll know which what I would say is the most practicable starter aircraft, so I won't talk about it here. But no, so for me, in my personal opinion, the first main reason why I'm not a huge fan of this aircraft is just because it has very limited capabilities for the new player. Second, it's ugly as Christ. My biggest gripe with any of these things, and it's the same for the Super Hornet, which is why I'm not a huge fan of that design, is this big, fugly gimbal system on the front of the bloody ship. I have no idea who decided to put that there, but they need shooting. It is absolutely terrible. Yes, it's a gimbal system, so huzzah, you can aim it anywhere you want and you can hit targets without having to fly properly, but good God, someone decided to jump up, make this sure this ship hit every ugly branch coming down the tree. Ooh. Ooh. Apart from that, though, the vessel does have some decent quirks. You can have a pretty decent visual, and it does have, as I said, the rocket pods on the side, but still, it's not a very aesthetically pleasing aircraft in my opinion, but regardless. So, yes, and unfortunately with Consolidated Outland, this is the only vessel that you can really get in the game. They are, of course, for a bit of a disclaimer, they also do have another vessel in development. This is known as the Pioneer. Now, the Pioneer is a big, giant construction facility which allows you to construct sort of station, like basically station size, like space station size components for basically when you're starting a planet, when eventually colonization of planets can begin, which I think will be pretty damn good. But again, it's a bit of a far off concept. So really, when you want to think Consolidated Outland, you think Mustang. Anyway, turning around, we are presented with Argo Industries, or sorry, Industries, Argo Astronomics, Nautics or whatever, basically Argo. And truth be told, I kind of feel sorry for these guys because all the new players are going to look at these two vessels and think, oh, it's that all. But really, Argo is, well, let's face it, if I take my helmet off, I'm a bit of a fanboy for Argo for one particular reason, which they never show off. Now, I admit, probably isn't the place to show it off, but I think it's a bit of a shame that they don't show it off because it's probably their flagship at this point, is very famous for the Argo Mole, or the Argo Multi-Operator Laser Extractor. So, the Argo are basically the most utilitarian of utilitarian. If they were any more utilitarian, they'd be Drake Interplanetary, but unlike Drake Interplanetary, their ships don't fall apart. So, the Argo is primarily designed for the planet-side transportation and logistical side of things. So if you will see these guys probably working a lot on planet side, they'll be ferrying food, ferrying goods, ferrying people, probably within the same cargo unit as well. Unfortunately, we can't seem to go to the back of them, but there are basically these little pod things have a door which you can access, but for some reason they don't want us to see the door, which is a bit of a shame. But there's basically one of the views for the Argo MPUV design, and as you can see, they're very small, they're very nimble, and they don't have a quantum drive. They are in fact quite cheap as well. They are approximately within the same price range as the starter ships. So these things are pretty much collector items at the moment, but once of course more industrialization comes into the game and we start seeing player-fed economies, player-fed planets, other more important things, then people will definitely find a job utilizing this. This may even be the best basic starter edition for becoming a supply vessel. So while again I fear that Argo Industries may become ignored because unfortunately these two vessels don't really sell Argo very well, don't worry guys, I know which one. I know you guys have some pretty dope shit, and don't worry, you've got a fanboy in me. That sounded wrong. Anyway, so now let us go on to the next group of people, which unfortunately do not have any physical models, but as you can see by the luxurious little thing in the distance, they do in fact have a presence in the holodecks. So, here we go, the second grouping, a little bit tucked away to the sides, in which, by the way, both sides are in fact the same, in case you're ever wondering. So we are tucking ourselves in for the first time Crusader Industries, that's right, the company Crusader Industries, which is mainly kind of a blend between the two. You'll probably have seen their adverts scattered across the verse, as you can see, with their various crafts and what have yous. But regretfully, the Crusader is one of the last few companies that don't really have any in-game ships available, but a lot of their vessels are in fact probably entering the last stages of production, which is very, very exciting because we could very soon be seeing these things in-game, which I'm very excited for. So this is the Crusader Mercury. Yeah, Industries Mercury. So basically this is what's known as a data runner. And I'm not entirely sure what kind of role data running would be, except for basically someone who steals data from important locations, runs the risk of getting blocked in, runs the blockade like the Millennium Falcon, and makes it back home for tea and biscuits, which is a pretty amiable and respectful position to be in. I for a second thought I was in that holodeck. I am. What the fuck? Oh my god. But anyway, so this is the first in-game perspective, and this particular vessel you can see is not the most detailed. Probably a fair amount of time is being left to be worked upon this, but you can see there's a couple of blasters in the distance, and bearing in mind, holographic displays do not represent the final size of the ship. So you will find that this vessel is probably a little bit bigger, probably big enough for a couple of people, maybe there's like a cargo bay, who knows. Aesthetically wise, they are very, very pretty. I do like this. Not entirely sure why they have this particular thing on the side design, but again, I quite like them. Crusader Industries is a company that I was not that fussed about. But over the course of time, and me constantly seeing adverts on the side, like, for example, over there, I grew to like the aesthetics, and I can only imagine when these things are finally in game, I'm going to probably like them even more. I'm probably going to end up being a Crusaders fanboy. So going on to the next thing, of course, here... So this is the Crusader Hercules. Now this, of course, is probably this alongside the Inferno, which the Ares is probably will probably be the poster child for Crusader Industries. And my God, does she look pretty! So this is the Hercules, basically the 18-wheeler of Star Citizen. You will be able to carry a fuckload of stuff inside. This is the thing that, if this is the thing that they probably showcased a lot in the Invictus trailers, transporting the tanks of the UEE. That's how big this thing is. It is basically a giant transportation vessel. It has, it can carry a crap load of oh God, I want to say CCU. God, I'm not even going to try and pronounce the thing, but yes, the Industries Hercules. So yes, this thing is a giant of a ship, and it is going to look really cool. But it's not only designed for transportation purposes, no sir. This thing also comes in the bomber variant, which is the A2, which famously can drop Moabs. Multiple Moabs. It is ridiculous. I am very excited to see this vessel, and I am very excited to see what this potential could do, because obviously Crusader Industries is a company, I said, this company hasn't received at least any kind of ships to the verse, but I guarantee you the moment they do, we are going to see some we're going to see some lovely variety, and also cargo hauling exploitation here, because the amount of shit you can carry in this thing is pretty substantial. Like, it's going to probably give the Caterpillar a good run for its money. So, yes, very much keep your eyes peeled for this, because once this thing gets in the verse, it's going to be lovely, and I'm going to love it. I have a very good friend, of course, my very dear friend Nimbus, has actually got one of these things. So, yes, I'm very much looking forward to rolling in that ship with him when that comes out, because, oh my God, it looks very lovely. Again, the aesthetics for the Crusader Industries is very, very pleasing. But also, don't forget, this vessel is just one of many other vessels. Of course, you have the Starfarer as well, which is I think I'm probably going to put them up on screen now. So you're going to be having the Starfarer, I believe, or I'll have also put the text correcting myself in the not in the description, in front of you as well. So you have the Starfarer, which is a very lovely transport. It's like it's basically like a cruise liner in space, which could challenge the 890 jumps quality. And of course, everyone's favorite girl, including me, is the Ares, more specifically the Ares Inferno, because Crusader Industries is wanting to make the Burt, and if they can make the Burt, then my God, they will have a fan for life. I'm really hoping CIG can put this ship in and give us a Burt, because the Ares Inferno does have a size 7 Gatling gun with a 1900 rounds per minute rate of fire. They do, of course, have the other variant, which, again, we're showing up on screen, is going to be the Ion, which is more dedicated for knocking out shields. But if we can get but obviously, the bigger, more favored to be the popular one is, of course, the Burt, because most people, including, Americans specifically, will love the concept of having an A-10 Warthog in the form of a giant spacecraft in Star Citizen. So, again, very, very good, very, very nice looking aircraft. I cannot wait for the first one to come out. We're hoping at some point this year, but with COVID-19 running about, probably going to be early next year at least. I'd like to be wrong, though. Please make me wrong, CIG. Please make me wrong. Right, so with Gormless McGee beginning to drool here, I guess we should go on to finish the last of our time. Oh, disappearing as well. It's ultimate stealth technology. Oh, great, I can half read this bloody Misc company. So, Misc, or Musashi Industrial and Starflight Concern, I probably fucked that one up. I can never pronounce the goddamn name of the first sodding group. It's so irritating. So, Misc is a company in Star Citizen that is probably about as famous as RSI itself. The Misc groups have released a whole host of different ships. Wait, was it Misc that was it? No, it was RSI that was the first people by Jump Works. That was right. How could I have forgotten them? Anyway, so the Misc group of people are more famous for their vessels such as the Freelancer. So they're not that focused on military, but they do have a few things up their sleeve, but they're more about like the transportation, exploration, fuel transportation, which is what this thing is, though this is the Starfarer Gemini. This thing basically has got a giant selection of missiles at the front, as you can see by its chinny chin chin. And it's a very impressive aircraft, though, to be honest with you, it's not a bad aircraft, but the main purpose of the Starfarer is more of a fuel transportation aircraft, though one day I hope and pray that CIG may allow for these particular things to be dropped as a suitable, I would say a do-it-yourself Moab. Is probably what I would designate one of these things. I'm hoping these things are detachable to the point where you can drop one of these on someone and cause a napalm slash, cause a napalm, do-it-yourself 4th of July on someone's face, which is pretty damn nice. But no, this is a fairly large vessel. In fact, it held the title for the largest ship in Star Citizen before the Reclaimer came along. And then, of course, it kind of faded into obscurity, but it is still a very impressive vessel to behold. There is a bunch of turrets on the top, as well as a couple of remote turrets, as well as a couple of turrets gimbaled guns as missile launchers for the pilot to throw around. But again, it is only a fuel transportation vessel. There's not really a lot of things going into this ship that will be something that you desperately need to have in-house for now. So I'm kind of bleh about this ship. And there is a little access pod up. Hang on. There you go. There's a little access pod for people who want to just get out of the chinny chin chin. Anywho, so actually we'll save those two till last. So going over to probably what the most famous aspect, going over to what's probably the more famous aspect of the Misc grouping, of course, is the Freelancer series. That's right, the Freelancers with 4 different variants. The bog standard Freelancer, the Freelancer Max, which is basically a giant version. It's basically a giant cargo hauling vessel, which is a great start to your cargo hauling franchise, which is a very, very good thing. I highly recommend it if you want to get into cargo hauling, but you want to do it on a budget. There is the Freelancer DUR, which is the Explorer variant, which has the ability to refine its own fuel. The problem is, apart from everything that it's practical for, and it has a good concept for being an Explorer vessel, they decided to name it in the most stupid manner possible. Why? Because every time I see it, I can't help but go, Freelancer, duh! So every time someone talks about the Freelancer series and they mention the duh, I have to call it the Freelancer, duh! Because, you know, duh. But anyway, this, of course, is the military variant known as the Freelancer Misc, which is basically a missile platform. It has fuckloads of missiles inside. Let's actually get inside. It's replaced its cannons with Gatling guns, which I'd argue is actually a bit of a downgrade, because the cannons that the bog standard Freelancer can use are dope as fuck. Anyway, I think I'm going to have to go this route, because once again, they've decided to park the ship in a way that you can't really get in except for one avenue, which is a bit of a shame. But no, this particular vessel, well, to be honest with you, for any player in Star Citizen, the Freelancer is a free ship for anyone, I think, until 3.10. And it basically acts as a means for you to be, I think it's like due to a glitch in Arena Commander, because apparently you couldn't use it for an insurance reason. And so basically CIG were like, yeah, that's on us. So take a free Freelancer for credit until 3.10, which I'm like, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good thing. So one of the main features about the Freelancer series, and we're going to kind of go from the cockpit to the rear, is the main selling point for this particular thing is the cockpit. You basically can have up to 4 people inside the cockpit. The display is kind of fucky, because basically, as you can see by our dear friend here, the distance from the pilot to the glass is an extremely long one. So it means that in terms of visibility, it's not that great. You've got a good horizontal view, but that's about it. And I can't honestly say it's that really fancy. Anyway, this particular design is fairly similar to all of the other designs in the Freelancer. You've got 4 beds to work with, you've got a toilet slash shitter, or as I call the shit shower. You've got the amenities and living capabilities, and this is basically, this kind of room here is more or less where the ship ends in terms of viability. Well, similarities to pretty much all the other vessels. Maybe with the Freelancer, you've also got cargo space that has been taken up by the refining rings, and of course there's the docking ring that's up above as well, which is, you know, bog standard. But anyway, going from that, the Freelancer Misc decides to shave its cargo space a bit by having shitloads of missiles. That's right, you basically have a crap load of missiles to be utilized and spammed at the nearest target, whilst you sit back and enjoy a nice hot cup of coffee. And you still do get sort of basically half of your cargo bay, so you can still transport a few things, but really this vessel is all about the shooty shoot. Now, I'm going to speak a little bit personal here. In my own personal opinion, about what could be a really awesome design upgrade slash refit for this particular ship, which I would say makes, and this particular turret design is the exact same here in all of the other Freelancers as well, which is a really big shame. And I think this is probably one of the biggest flaws for the Starfarer, the Freelancer, in my opinion. Which is, of course, this turret design. If you haven't noticed it already, it kind of sticks out. And it means that pretty much loads of other things, you kind of can't store much in here, because a lot of the vehicles in the game, you could actually potentially roll in. You could probably store a few dragonflies, maybe even a cyclone, if you're desperate. You could do you could attempt to fit lots of stuff in here, but because of this stupid fucking, you could even probably fit a ship in here, like the normal Freelancer. Again, this is the military version, so you get about half the cargo space. So imagine that, but all the way down to the airlock room. Now, again, to summarize this quickly, I would move this turret and move it through here, into here, and move the docking collar from there all the way to here, or just not have a docking collar there. Maybe instead of having the docking collar at the top, you could have the docking collar down below and the turret at the top, because really, you're getting more or less the same view from the back of the ship. The turret isn't that great, and there isn't really that much of a difference in terms of where you could be and what kind of advantage you could have. The only real benefit you could have from the rear turret is the ability perhaps to see a tiny bit, because your gun depression doesn't go any further low. You're not going to be able to aim low enough to shoot targets trying to sneak up behind you. So, again, there's not really much of a reason for you to have that turret there, but there is many reasons for you to there's many other reasons for you to, no, I don't want to rent it, but there's many reasons for you to remove the turret there and instead have the ability to enjoy the vessel with more cargo space. So yes, I think that's a real big shame. I think the Freelancer series would be much better off if they had that, but regardless, that's just my own personal opinion on the matter. But apart from that, the Freelancer series is a pretty solid, reliable ship. I've had enough experience in them to say my piece, but there you go. So, now we result onto the last 2 vessels. I'll save that little beauty till later. And we instead roll over to this thing, the Misc Razor X, one of the racer attempts, or one of the attempts by Misc to enter the racing ring. And as you can see, she looks like a little dream. She's fast, she's agile, she's very, very pretty. Very, 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 very pretty. Very pretty. She's also, really, I don't know if she's like the fastest vessel out there, but she definitely can pack a punch as well with some of the guns that you can put on her. Like, holy shit, is that the scatter gun? I'll definitely replace those. But yeah, so this is the Razor X, the fancy pants one. I'm gonna have to actually have a look, see how much she costs. But yeah, I'm probably not going to get her. I've already spent enough. God almighty, have I spent enough. But regardless, this is basically for the guys who want to fly something really quick, not much armor or shields, but is extremely maneuverable. This is more for like the racers out there, and I mean like the actual racers. People want to go into the because there is a racing thing at the moment as well. If you go into the Arena Commander, there is in fact a racer mode, but I think in the future, when racing becomes more of a thing in the verse, you'll be able to utilize these things. Or if you want to do tricks and stuff, I've actually seen YouTube, there's because I don't know what channel, I can't remember the channel name, I apologize in advance for this, but there's a YouTube channel which basically has people doing tricks in these vessels and Origin Jump Works M50s, which just, they astound me with the amount of the amount of shit that they pull, which is ridiculous. It's so good. But regardless, if you want a racer, there you go. So guys, a bit of a weird editorial note for two things. Unfortunately, in the display grounds, for some reason the Reliant Tana is unflyable at this current moment in the Invictus event. I don't think this was intentional. I think this was a legitimate bug. Basically, inside the event showgrounds, I thought I could try and show this particular vessel off by actually taking it out for a spin, which is really cool. Problem is, there's this gun-like thing. I don't know what it is, but it's basically blocking the route, and it's kind of mucked up the internals for this particular ship, which is a real shame, because I honestly would love to get into this vessel and showcase to you what this thing can do, because it's apparently had a nice rework, and I was hoping to be able to showcase this, but unfortunately it looks like we're not going to be able to showcase this vessel in glorious action unless I can somehow get into the ship with Can I no-clip? Let me no-clip so I can get in the vessel. Yes? No? Yes? Maybe? I don't know. I'm going Australian. Come on, you little bastard. Little bastard. Anyway. God damn it. But regardless. So, okay. Basically, unfortunately, I can't showcase this vessel to you. I wish I could. But this fucking thing... Whoever put this there, I want to slap you. I want to slap you with a bloody fish. Anyway, so, fun times. So basically, this is the militaristic version of the Reliant series. The Reliant series, in basic form, is, imagine a B-wing, but instead of the B-wing's cockpit being at the center, being at the right or like the left, it's in the center. Now this vessel can have two pilots, main pilot here, co-pilot here, and when the vessel is in flight, the cockpit is twisted to... Okay, the cockpit is twisted 90 degrees along with the wings of the vessel, meaning that if you're not careful and you try and get out of your ship mid-flight, you might not be able to get back in the pilot seat again, which is a bit of a flaw to be had when it comes to this thing, which is a bit of a shame. But still. But the cool thing about this particular vessel is also the fact that this thing has... it also has the ability to switch its thrusters from forward, so horizontal to vertical, which is very, very cool. Because what you can do is you can fly around with these things shooting you normally throughout the whole process, pushing you horizontal, or you could have it as a vertical landing ability, which is very, 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 very cool. And for me personally, I'm kind of intrigued about this series. I've not had a lot of hours experience flying this vessel. Unfortunately, I was hoping to add a few more minutes to it, but the game decided to say no, which is oh so fun. And, yeah, I quite like this vessel. I don't know why I like this vessel, I just like this vessel. Out of all the ships in the Misc grouping, this is probably my favorite, well, not this version, because this version, you don't get to fucking fly it. But the other versions, one of which is a transporter, like a bare-bones starter edition, which almost makes the cut for the best, for the ships I would recommend for a starter player. The only issue, of course, though, is that this vessel is very alien in its design network. And when I say alien, I probably should say sci-fi, probably more than alien, because this does have a cargo bay, so you do have the ability to put some level of cargo involved. Obviously, the militaristic version doesn't have much of a cargo bay, because obviously it's designed more for military stuff than, you know, civilian stuff. So there is a science version as well, so if you want to do some scientific researching, or an explorer variant as well. But no, this vessel I would almost recommend, but the thing is there's a bunch of other methods, or there's a couple of metas and skill levels about this ship that you've got to learn how to get used to before this vessel really makes a thing of its own for you. So while it is a shame that we don't get to really, it's a shame for new players who really won't get the opportunity to really fly this thing. It's a very good ship, and I maybe at some point might get this vessel if I can get it with in-game currency. So much the better. but it's a very pretty ship. I don't know what it is about this thing. Maybe the dome. I will not lie. When this thing, I can tell you one thing for certain though. When you're flying this thing, you have the most amazing visual ever. Like, imagine Pacha from Emperor's New Groove just doing his just right everywhere you look. It's just right. Just right. It's just right. You have so much field vision. It is absolutely beautiful. I love it. It's perfect. And probably that's my biggest selling point for this vehicle, is why I like it a lot. But regretfully, we can't really showcase it, so this particular thing will end on a sadly anticlimactic note. But that is the official list of all the ships that you can rent in the Invictus Day. But there are a bunch of other ships on sale, so if you want to get into the hype, or if you want to get into if you want to get into debt, then I can recommend no place no better than the Pledge store inside our Citizen. So if you like this kind of content, let me know in the comment section down below, clicking on the like button, and of course subscribing to the channel. And feedback is always appreciated. I know I've just said that thing, but seriously, I'm hoping to make more of a thing of this, and I'm very much falling in love with this game even more now, which is a good thing, because it's something that I've always liked, but I've always struggled to find in terms of inspiration. So this particular week, and hopefully other more fantastical events coming up, will also make this thing really exciting. So I bid you adieu, and I will see you further afield, whereupon we'll be seeing the Drake Interplanetary or Drake Defense Con decide to go into it, which sounds very fancy. I will see you then, guys.